So let's start then. Uh, Hi, I am Joydas Boiragbo. Currently, I am doing my PhD in IIT Kanpur, and my PhD topic is basically on evolutionary game theory. I am examining the evolutionary game theory from its various aspects. So let's talk about what is evolutionary game theory is. So as title suggests, this evolutionary game theory contains three parts. One is evolution, one is game theory. So let us first review what the evolution is. And in evolutionary game theory, basically a mathematical tool where you uh, give a mathematical theory, or you are trying to give a evolutionary dynamics through evolutionary game theory. So it is basically a model of evolution. And so let's see what the evolution is. So if you see the biology, then you will find that the main there is a important question is in the biology is why so much variability in these species are there. So why there is lots of species around us. So what is the reason behind that, and why we are seeing part few particular species, we are not seeing other species. So these are the questions uh, the biologists thought, and these are the questions they work on. And we know that uh, the first concept of evolutionary selection, evolutionary dynamics was given by the Darwinian, and it is captured in his book The Origin of Species. So yes, yes, yes. Okay, now is it here audible, or no? It is same as before. Oh, okay, okay. No, no, it's fine. Yeah. Now I am audible, or yeah, two.
Still, you're not clearly audible.
Okay. Now maybe is it okay?
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Yeah,
Yeah, you are audible now.
now
Yeah,
now I'm
thanks.
able. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
So I am basically talking about the evolutionary game theory. So in biology, there is a question which the biologists work upon in many time. What is why we see this much species around us? Why there are so much species around us, and what is the reason behind uh, the species? All different kind of species. And this is the first question, and the second question is why we are seeing this particular species. What is the reason behind that? Now these was first means these you can solved by we know the by Charles Darwin. And this was he published a book which is named The Origin of Species. So let me tell the story of this, how he came across this idea. So at 1831, Charles Darwin embarked on a journey of through the means journey around the world, and during his journey he found so many things. So one of the thing is he found in different and part of the world he found same flower is there, but there are little bit different variant of that same flower. So different kinds of topical flora and different kinds of birds, he's found these things, and he also found the very tragic things of humans. So one of the thing is slavery in Brazil and also genocide in Argentina. He also was there when the Australia's economic growth was there. Now at that point of time, he met a physicist named John Herschel, and the John Herschel told Darwin that there is a problem. There is told him that there is a mystery of mysteries. That is why the variability of the species is there, and what is the unknown mechanism that give rise to a new species. Now after coming back Darwin, and he forget about those things, and he worked on his geology. But during his work in geology, and when he thinks about his supervisor idea. His supervisor name was Sir Charles Lyell, and their idea was that mountain were not lifted up in one day. It lifted up in many days, little by little, and this idea give rise of the evolution. And in that time, Darwin thought like that anything can happen if I give enough time. So that's why the evolution comes up into mind. But one thing needs to be clear, that the idea of the evolution, the word evolution is not tossed by the Darwin. It was already there. So the idea evolution was first turned by this gentleman named Lamarck. And in that time, in England, in Edinburgh, many of the prominent thinker used to think that the evolution is the reason of the life. And but the most of the establishment rejected that theory, and those who believed in this theory, they are called Lamarckists. And the main problem was that the Lamarck theory does not convince people how the change in species comes, how change in species happens. Now this is first done by the Charles Darwin, and in the same time there is another scientist whose name is Russell Wallace. He have also done the same things, but the Russells, we don't know them name the Russells because the popularity of Charles Darwin. Now in those days, Darwin was aware of that fact that the population can grow infinitely. That this is called Malthusian growth. So population can, if we provide enough resource to a population, and it will reproduce at a rate, and if its death rate is lower than its birth rate, then population can grow infinitely. On the other hand, if the resource is limited, suppose there is a lot of individuals are there, and a competition to consume the resource is there, then the population cannot grow infinitely. So this concept was there from the economics, and Charles Darwin was very aware of that thing. Now he think the same thing in a way, that maybe the reproduction is a crucial reason of the evolution. The different rate of the reproduction maybe give birth to the selection. Now one, and he thought that the the not genetic, the trait or the behavior a offspring get, it is a perfect blend of mother trait and father trait. Suppose mother has a short height and father has a long height, or otherwise, then the children will get their average height. So this is the idea of Darwin. But in that way he can give that he can present the idea that that's how a species continuously change to another species. So its property is property continuously changing, and at some point its property is, if you see its property will change so much that we call it a species. Because a species in biology, this basically species means, if there is a lot of definition of species, but one of the definition is when uh, if the species is something, if we they interbreed, then the reproducible offspring will produced. And if they are from two different species, then there, if they reproduce, and there will be no reproducible offspring. So one of the example is, if I mate a horse mate with the ass, it will produce a mule, and mule cannot reproduce furthermore. So that is example. Now again, with the idea of the Darwin, there is a one problem was that if that is the case, if every offspring gets a blend of his mother and father characteristic, then how so much variation we are observing in a population. So the variation, why the variation remain fixed, it cannot be, means it is, means his theory cannot at all explain this aspect of this variability. But at that point of time Darwin was unaware of the of another gentleman work. His name is Mendel. Mendel is a botanist, and he worked on the how the characteristic, if I means if I mate, means if I combine different aspect of the two species of the tree, then how their offspring, on what characteristics their offspring will get their and the Mendel's works was based on the heredity. And he thought that the heredity is not a continuous water like continuous thing, it is a discrete thing. So we'll talk about this the Mendelian heredity later. But if we assume this, if we assume that this is the case, the heredity is not the blending what Darwin thought, but it is basically the what the Mendelian idea is, that it is a not continuous, it is discrete properties. And if you assume that, and then you can show, and basically this is first time and showed mathematically by J.H. Hardy and and a German physician who is named Winberg. And they showed that the Mendelian inheritance does lead to a maintenance of genetic diversity under a random mating. So, and this is a very this also will covered in this course, and this is called the famous Hardy Weinberg equilibrium. Now after these things, there are lots of things happens in evolution. Now one of the milestone is that when basically what is the problem of evolution, main problem of evolution, if I see, so if everyone wants to reproduce at a faster rate, so that means if a means the selfish gene, that means who will not think about others but only think about himself, will reproduce at a faster rate. So suppose if there is a selfish individual, and selfish individual means he wants to consume a resource more than other, and if it is the case, then other will not we other cannot be capable of consuming the resource as much as the selfish individual can. So that's why the selfish individual will be able to reproduce at a very faster rate, and you will think that only this selfish individual will be there at the end of the day. So this poses again a question, so why we are seeing so much collaboration or so much cooperativeness inside, suppose in ant colony. If you find in ant colony, if you will see that the ants are not able to reproduce by themselves. In an ant colony there is only one queen ant, and all other ants are actually cannot they are not reproduce at all, they only work for the colony. So why this kind of cooperation emerge in the population automatically? So this is a great idea. This was the question, and it is very puzzling question that was first solved by the William Hamiltonians in 1964, and it is called his idea that the selfish gene can favor altruistic behavior among relatives. So in this example, in this ants are basically sister of all the ants are theirs are sisters, because they are the offspring from a same queen, so they basically genetically related, their genetically relatedness is very high. So don't worry, we will come across this concept genetic relatedness in this course later. So by this you can prove that yeah, some kind of cooperation can be emerged between genetically related individuals. Now after that, there is another thing happens, which is the when John Maynard Smith invention the evolutionary game theory. John john Maynard Smith, John Maynard Smith give the idea of evolutionary game theory, and after that there are lots of gentlemen their work on the evolutionary game theory, and they evolutionary game theory basically the dynamics of evolution. It is a dynamics of evolution which captures automatically the selection. So here the game, what Maynard Smith think that game in economics the game theory was present there. Now what Maynard Smith think that game is not between two rational individual, not two rational individual like humans, it will be between two species, two means it is between two trait of a population, and as if the the nature itself select one trait, as if means select one trait, and you can see the same thing as if the two rational individual instead of this population are reproducing, you can think itself as if these two individuals play game themselves and give rise to another behavior. So this is the idea. So let's go through it. So first we will see what evolution is. So what is the evolution is evolution. Now evolution has basically three components. One is we need some reproducible individuals. So we need reproducible individuals who replicate themselves. So replication. Second is selection, and third is mutation. And this is very interesting because you see these three property means is very universal in nature. So it doesn't matter what species you are talking about, if you know that the replication is going on and they are capable of replication, and then and there happens some mutation during replication, you will always see the evolution. It doesn't matter about which species we are talking about, this is a universal thing. And another thing I can
So I
yeah.
Yes, so I have a query here that I mean replication is fine, but then who is responsible to carry out the selection? Number one,
Yeah.
and why the why the mutation is needed, and does this happen automatically, or there are some factors which are responsible to carry out this mutation thing?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, who are the selection? Selection is a term, but no one is actually selecting. You will find I will when you we will write the dynamics. You will find that one species will be automatically selected over other, because if you see that in a population, if the resource is finite amount of resource is there, now there are, if individuals consume that finite amount of resource, only a finite number of individuals can be there. Now if one kind of individual reproduce at a higher rate than other, you will actually find that the frequency of that type of individual actually increases, and that way this differential reproduction rate will select one species or other. We will see these things, and yes, it is that the selection, it's no one selecting one species over other, the selection will be automatic. uh, and the second, the question, that the mutation part, why the mutation is needed. Mutation is needed because suppose in the population there is no mutation, then you will not find if everyone replicating in a species, suppose two types of individuals are there, one's hair is black, one hair is white. Not, this is not a good example, so let me give an examples of a mice who lives in an environment in mountain. So there are two types of mice are there whose color is, one is black and one is white. So why these two types of mouse existed at all? So if you found that, if you there is a, means there is a reason behind that. But if you see uh, these two types of mouse is existed, that means something happens during their replication, some mutation should happen, that's why the variability will automatically come. And if the variability come, then between these two species one will be selected. So in this example, suppose the mountains, so if the mountains color is itself black, and the black, and there is a predator, this, suppose this is a predator and there is a black mouse and this is a white. Now if the background is the mountain is, if his mountain is blackish, then the predator will less found this black mouse, but it will often found this white mouse, and the predator will eat white mouse very faster, means the death rate of the white mouse will become higher. And the black, in this case, if you will see the black mouse will be automatically selected over this white. And at the first place we need two types of mouse, one is black and white. So these two species, inside a species the variability is required, and this variability comes in the process of mutation. And the mutation, the why the mutation is there, because if you see when replication happens, so when one behavior is replicated, uh, then the behavior itself uh, maintained by its genetic material, which is called DNA and RNA. DNA and RNA. So while making a copy of DNA and RNA, it could, means because it's not a perfect process, so the probability of making an error is very high. So almost you can surely say that if automatically if I want to make a copy of DNA or RNA, some error will happen in some part of the DNA. And if some error happens in the some part of DNA, that is actually called mutation. And because of that, since DNA is the reason for a behavior, so that's why you will change the behavior of that in behavior of that organism. So that is actually called the mutation. Is it clear?
Yes, but then the resources required for the humans definitely would be different than the resources required, say, for the other species.
Yeah.
So then, when you talk about the resources throughout, I mean, in the discussion, then what does it refer to?
Okay, means I'm not going to that exact resource. What I will do, that you can always capture the effect of the resource in itself birth and death process. So here you see the resource, what what the resource affect its birth rate or death rate. If resource is in larger amount, then it will be affect your birth rate, you will reproduce at a higher rate. So in that way, because you are correct that resource is different for different species, so for humans the resource is different, for other animals the resources are different. So that's why we are not going to get deeper into the resource. We will talk about that this resource will affect birth rate and death rate. The birth and the death of an organism actually capture this resource effect. Is it clear?
Okay.
Huh.
Yes, yes. Thanks. Yeah.
So now this is the thing. Now let's talk about the reproduction first. So let me give an example of reproduction. uh, Imagine there is a single bacteria in a perfect environment. Here that I if I provide the every nutrient, here the resource is the every nutrients for the growth. And if the bacteria sends happiness, then maybe probably if we provide some happiness, then this is the my resource. If I provide that single bacteria in that perfect heaven like structure, then we know experimentally, means not in this example, means we know that experimentally that in a bacteria if I give enough resource, it will reproduce at a means it will replicate itself, means one bacteria divided into two part, it makes two daughter cell in 20 minutes. It's on average 20 minutes. Now you will find that in 40 minutes these two will again, every two will divide into two, these again divide into two. So after 40 minutes you will find that four granddaughter is there, and again after 80 minutes you will find that eight great grand daughter will be there. So now question is how many cells will be there after 3 days. So if you this way, you see after one generation, so this is in 20 minutes one generation, in one generation 2 to the power 1 cells are there, in next generation 2 to the power 2 generation is there, and if you find that in the third generation every 2 will be coming again 2. So you will find uh, uh, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 generation. So 2 to the power q generation, 2 to the power ham. Now after t generation, after tth generation you will find 2 to the power t numbers of cells. Now question is how many cells will be there after 3 days. Now it will be, so in one day how many generation will be there. So in one day, so one day is 24 hours, so into 60, so in every 20 minutes there will be 1 20, so these will be 72 generation. So in one day you will find 2 to the power 72 generations. Now in 3 day you find that 2 to the power 3 into 72 generation. So if only in 20 minutes the bacteria, one bacteria become two bacteria, so you find that these many, these will be nearly about 2 to the power 3 216, this is 2 to the power 216, and it is order of 10 to the power 65 cells. This is very large. So if I assume this kind of reproduction, you will find that it will growth multiplicatively and exponential growth will happen. So in terms of this equation, suppose at tth time nt number of bacteria were present there, then at n t plus 1, how much bacteria will be there? That will be 2 nt. So this is the basic equation here. Now if I know at t equal to 0 n0 number of bacteria present here, in case n0 is 1, then you can write this equation nt plus 1 will be x0 or n0 2 to the power t numbers of bacteria, 2 to the power t numbers of bacteria present there. Now we can write the same equation in this is called the difference equation. So this is called difference equation. Now you can write the differential equation corresponding to this equation, which will, if I here you see here we assume that after every 20 minutes discretely they reproduce two individuals. Now if I add little bit realism to this process, so this will be not the case, this is actually on average 20 minutes required. But what is happening there, so after one reproduction it could reproduce again, and the what is the probability of reproduction, that only we know, means that we don't also know, but we can model it through a Poisson process. So this is basically, so one reproduction could happen in t time. So this process, the probability of happening this process, if I start from t equal to 0 after t time, what is the probability that this process will happen? So that probability is, you can, if I model this probability with 1 minus e to the power r t, and why it is came means, if I means at, let me go through the steps, then it will be clear. So suppose at any instant time t, the probability of reproduction will be, the probability rate means, so t, the rate of reproduction, that means if I go, what is the probability or reproduction if I go from t to t plus dt. Now you see that here I take the time as a continuous manner. Now what you will get, that this probability, if I modeled the probability of reproduction, if this is e to the power minus r t, then if I ask, this is the if I ask what is the probability if I wait from 0 to time t, one of this process will happen. So that will basically integration of 0 to tau e to the power minus rt, and you will find that this is 1 minus e to the power r.
So these, I mean, these equations are not clear. I mean, can you summarize these equations again? That, I mean, how did we get this 1 minus e raised to the power rt and
Okay.
other things?
Okay. So basically, let me go through it one by one, because okay. So suppose that the probability that one bacteria will divided into two is, the probability that one bacteria will get, means one bacteria will become two at time, if I start from time t to t plus dt. So in between this time, what is the probability of one bacteria getting two is actually e to the power some constant, there may be some normalizations constant will be there, and this will be rt. So that way you actually, so if this means, if in some this instant if I see some bacteria reproduce divide into two cells, and the probability after it will be less, so you will see on average.
So then, how can we write the differential equation for this, and which resulted into this final solution, say a e raised to the power minus rt? So, I mean, what could be the the differential equation for this.
Okay. Okay, what would be the difference? Okay, let me write it. So okay, let me go through it. So then the if I the question, what is the average reproduction time? So from here we can calculate what is the average reproduction time. So you will find the average reproduction time will be 1 by r. Now if the average reproduction time is 1 by r, now if at that time suppose nt number of individuals will be there, now at then what will be the rate of change of this nt? So this is actually uh, we can write it in this way. So nt plus 1 minus, this is not will be plus 1. Okay, this is on average how much suppose in some time t there was nt number of individuals, and at nt plus 1 because of this reproduction rate it will become nt plus 1, nt plus 1. Now so what will be the nt dot? That will be nt plus 1 minus nt by the time it required. Now you see this time step is not t plus 1, it is actually after some time, suppose tau prime, it will happen. Now you find that this is actually tau prime, yeah, this is tau prime. Now you will find the rate of reproduction of a single individual. So sorry, this is not the case. So if I want to find out the what is the average time, suppose t into e to the power minus rt 0 to infinity, you will find that one individual reproduce average time will be 1 by r. So that some scaling constant is there. Now suppose nt at time nt individuals there, what will be the rate of reproduction? So that will be nt dot will be naturally nt by 1 by r. Is it clear?
So I view it like this. Say NT dot. I mean, probably this NT dot stands for dNt by dt.
Yes.
Is it okay? All right. So then this dNt by dt is equal to, say, the population at the timestamp t, and multiplied by r or divided by 1 by r, which is the average. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, this is the basically the equation I want, differential equation want to wrote, but you actually this is not the exact differential equation. If whatever you suggesting, that if I want to write the differential equation from the process itself, you will find that this is not the equation. You will find some type of equation which is called stochastic equation, or Langevin equation kind of thing you will get. So you will get rnt plus some noise term. Now this is the equation you will get on average. If I take average over the process, you will get this type of equation. So this is called the on average equation. So we will get.
But then in reality, in reality, the equations cannot be this simple, because there must have been some nonlinear terms as well. I mean, things cannot be so very linear as far as the change is concerned.
Yes, you are right. Yes, you are. But let's go through it step by step. So that's why, because it is the primary step. But you are right that this cannot be the case. It should be nonlinear, and you will see that what is the problem here. You will, if you analyze this equation, you will get the solution like this, that nt will be n0 e to the power rt. You will see as t goes to infinity, that number of individuals in a population will also increase to infinity. That means in every population the population will grow infinitely. That is not the case what you are suggesting. So obviously this should not be the means this cannot be the equation. Now we have to do, if I stay in the domain of um, linear terms, then what should I do? So let's, here only the birth rate is there, let put the death rate also. First let put the death rate also. Suppose then nt dot will become r minus d nt. So this will be the case. So d is the death rate. Now you find that this equation will become, if I solve this equation, and nt dot means, every time nt dot means I am meaning d dt of nt. The first derivative with respect to nt, the first derivative of nt with respect to t is represented by nt dot. So now this, if we solve this equation, you will get nt will be n0 e to the power r minus t into t. Now from here we can get two aspects. One, if r is greater than d, then this population will go infinitely, as we, this is called Malthusian growth. And if r become less than d, then the population nt will continuously go towards 0, because this term will be, if r less than d, so r minus d will be less than 0, so e to the power minus, this will be r, this will be d minus r, and into t, this will be d minus r into t, and if limit t tends to infinity, it will become 0. So that's why in this case the population will grow infinitely, and in this case the population will be going towards continuously 0. And there is a third case, which is r equal to d. For r equal to d, you see the initially what kind of individuals will be there, they will be there forever. But this solution r equal to d is not robust at all. So if something change happen in birth rate or death rate, the stability of this point will the population could either go to infinity, or the population could either go to extinction. This is the thing. Now from here there is a one concept in the bio, means this is the one concept, generate one concept, it is called the reproductive rate. So from here the concept having the reproductive rate, the ratio of r by d is known as the reproductive rate. Reproductive rate. Here r is the birth rate, and d 1 by, you could think the 1 by d is the average average duration of life, average duration of life. So in an average duration of life, if you produce r individual, then you will find that r by d is the reproduction rate. That is the case. Now here you see there would be a case that unreasonable growth, and there would be a case where extinction will be there. But as you are saying that in reality this should not be the case. So there should be a means this birth rate and death rate should depend on what kind of resource are there. If the resource are infinite, then the infinite birth can happen, and if the resource are finite, then we have to check the birth rates at some point of time. So if they consuming the resource, and after some point of time there will be not enough resource to reproduce, so that kind of thing is captured by the a model which is called logistic model. And this is where this nonlinearity come. So it will be modeled like this, nt dot equal to, so it is, means I want to emphasize that up to now whatever we are doing, it is only the reproduction part, no evolution is happening here. I am giving you a test what kind of equation we write in when we are talking about the replication, only replication. So only one type of individuals are there and they are reproducing, no selection is happening, no mutation is happening. Now here it will be, this will be the linear term. That now I want to add a non-linear term, 1 minus nt by k, and this equation is not unrealistic at all, because in my previous course also I have shown that there are a lot of examples are there which you can model, whose reproduction rate, whose reproduction you can model through this equation. This is called the logistic equation. Here the first part is linear growth and the non-linear term comes, and this k is called the carrying capacity, and this non-linear term minus nt square, or you may think like that this way. So its birth rate is changed by n by t over k. So it means this is, now this is become the birth rate. Now why this came, because after some point of time when this nt become greater than k, then its birth rate will become negative, total average birth rate will become negative, and when at the point of nt equal to k, its birth rate will be 0. That means at that point there will be, the resource is such that it only support k number of individuals. If there will be k plus 1 number of individuals, one individual should be deprived of resource and it will die. So that's why you can, yeah.
But then, what is the reason behind the correctness of these equations? Because it seems to me like a thought experiment only. Quite possible we have not taken many factors into the consideration, like say the population would be aging, and the aged population cannot reproduce that much, so that factor has not been taken into consideration here. Here we have only taken one consideration, that when the population reaches to the level of k number of the individuals, then because of the lack of the resources, I mean, there won't be more reproduction, and the species will start dying. But then there could be many factors. I mean, like the aging could be one factor, or the storm could be another factor. The natural hazards could be another factor. I mean, there could be, lot many factors which have not been taken into consideration here. So, what is, I mean, why this equation is so popular and considered to be the realistic one?
Okay, no, it's not as much as realistic, because you cannot write that much realistic equation. You are means the means in a control setup. Suppose you means, yes, it is, if you think like that, it is a thought experiment, but in principle there is some assumption to write this equation. So one of the assumption is that individual will reproduce continuously, and it will, suppose the reproduction rate is suppose the individual is there and they reproduce only once in their lifetime, and after they will die. So there will be some insects, some insects are there who are whose whole life cycle is 1 year, and they reproduce only once in a year. And if you take those insects inside a room, and if you creating such environment where you will not means you will, you actually, as you will impose the control as much as you can, so that those factors other than their birth rate, their resource, other factors could be excluded from the picture. Then from those experiments you will find means similar kinds of results. It is not as much as realistic as you observe in the nature, that is actually true, but it is, I am saying that it is close to reality. It is more closer to reality than this equation.
Okay, thanks.
So this is the case. Now now another interesting point will happen, means that will be the thing when, okay, let me do it. This is what will be the solution of this equation. So the solution of this equation will be nt will be k n0 e to the power rt by k plus n0 e to the power rt minus 1. Now if you find that at t tends to infinity the population size will converge x star equal to k. Population will converge in x equal to k if r greater than 1. So reproduction rate will be if greater than 1 it will converge at x star equal to k. Now another interesting property you can observe from if I discretize this equation, so if I write instead of this equation discretized version of it, so that will be nt plus 1 minus nt will be r nt 1 minus nt by k. So nt plus 1 equal to plus r nt 1 minus nt by k. Now if I take this out, that nt 1 plus r minus r nt by k, this will be if I take these 1 plus r, it will be nt into 1 minus nt by 1 plus r k by r. Now if I renormalize the nt by this factor 1 by r k over r, because the population grow maximum k and 1 plus this will be always this is always greater than k and nt will be always less than k, then if I do a renormalization nt by 1 plus r k by r equal to xt, this will always less than, it will remain between 0 to 1. Now if I do this renormalization, if I divide every side by this quantity 1 plus r k by r, this is 1 plus r k by r, you will find this equation xt. If I take xt is nt by 1 plus r k by r, you will find that xt will be xt, and if I take 1 plus r equal to a, this equation will be a 1 minus xt. This is the equation. You will find the form of the equation will be this. The form of the equation will be this. Now this is another interesting equation. This is called the discrete version of this continuous equation. Now let me tell you what is happening here. So this is, there is a one hidden assumption will be there, it is t plus 1. One hidden assumption is there. So assumption is if there is a population, if the individuals do not have overlapping generation, so that means they, if some population is there, they reproduce their offspring and the older one dies and they reproduce only once in their lifetime. So this is the assumption. So and this is means this is called non-overlapping generation. You will find there will be lots of insects, examples of lots of insects are there, which you will find that there is this kinds of reproduction pattern you can find in these kinds of insects. I forgot the exact. Yes.
So, I mean, what is the limit of the values of A?
Limits of the values of it could be here. I mean in principle it could be anything, but you see here to means if you want to check that what would be the value of xt plus 1 xt? So it means in principle, or since it is the fraction, so it could not be greater than 1. So that's why a cannot be anything. A has to be in between 0 to 4. So in between a 0 to 4, you will always find that xt plus 1 is remain between 0 to 1. So for theory, for practical
I
use.
could not understand
Okay.
this. Yeah, but this A is 0 plus 0 4 means what?
Okay.
I mean,
Okay, means a's value. Okay, let me. A has to be in between 0 to 4. Means, okay, let me goes by this. So xt, the value of xt has to be less than 1 and greater than 0. So this is a fraction, so it could not be greater than 1. Now,
uh, but then xt is so. What is xt here is this a fraction of the population or
yeah,
is this the population itself?
population itself, by I normalize it by this factor 1 plus r k by r. So I divided by this factor, and from the previous one we know.
So what is the interpretation of xt then? What is the interpretation of xt?
Okay,
What does it show?
it's so that means if there is a carrying capacity, means that much maximum population one habitat can take. So what fraction of that is what fraction of, means it is basically, you could think uh, the fraction of maximum capacity is achieved. So it is basically the number of individuals by the maximum number of individuals one habitat can take.
Okay, okay.
So this is a fraction. So xt has to be in between 0 to 1. Now if I put a number, suppose negative number, so you will find that xt plus 1 will be, since xt is positive and 1 minus xt will be positive, 1 minus xt is positive. So if I put, suppose a is some negative number minus 1, so xt plus 1 will be minus xt and 1 minus xt. So that means that fraction will become negative. So that imposes a condition on a, that a could not be negative. So a has to be greater than 0. And if I write a equal to 4, you will find that xt plus 1 will become greater than 1. So that means a could not, means if the values of a should not be exceeds 4. So that's why the values of a has to be in between 0 to 4. Is it clear what is the possible range of a?
Yes. Yeah, thanks.
So this is the thing. Now this is very interesting. Again, this is a very interesting equation, because in some, means when you observe uh, population of insects, you will find that there will be sometimes the population becomes very erratically. The you cannot uh, see, we cannot means see any pattern in this thing. So how you can explain those things? So this is a very simple equation. So this is xt plus 1 is a xt 1 minus xt. This is a very simple equation. Now when a is in between 0 to 1, you will find that there is only one fate of the population, is that the xt, that at t tends to infinity, the xt will always go towards 0. The population will always become extinct. When this makes sense, because excuse me for a moment, I have to join. So So it's makes sense because you see that when the reproduction rate is less than 1, which means, so suppose there are these many individuals are there, but in my assumption they will die after reproducing. So since a is less than 1, in the next generation you will find less number of individuals than this, and in the next generation these will be again lesser. So that's why ultimately the whole population will become extinct. Now this is very simple, intuitive. Now if I take greater than 1, you will find that not, since uh, not lacing, so this is means, and a greater than 1, you will find that x star is equal to, there is inside a point, the value of that point will be a minus 1 by a, and you will find that the fraction will be this for a greater than 1. Now it makes sense, yes, since they reproducing at a much faster rate, there will be some fraction of individuals who will be there. Now this is next. Now then this cannot be, means if I increase a infinitely, the xt star will be increasing. So that will be not the case, because if you see xt star has a property that 1 minus, this will be 1 minus 1 over a. So this means if I increase a, the xt star, that xt star, this is called the abundance of that population will increase. If I increase a, the abundance of the population will increase. But one thing will happen when we increase the a, and if a is become 3, at a equal to 3, you will find that this point, that x star equal to a minus 1 by 3, will become unstable. So this is a terms of this unstable equilibrium, stable equilibrium. This is a term from, I borrowed from the nonlinear dynamics. So I will use those terms here. So a equal to 3, here you will find that this xt star, means this internal point, will become unstable again. And what you will found, that will you found a 2 periodic orbit, which is not at all intuitive. So this is a simple equation. Now why for a greater than a equal to 3, or a greater than equal to 3, you will find 2 periodic orbit, that is not clear. Now you will found that, so when you there is another interesting property will happen with this equation. So when you increase furthermore, the 2 periodic orbit will not be there, the 2 periodic orbit become unstable, and you will find the 4 periodic orbit is there. And if we increase furthermore, the 4 periodic orbit will become, so from 2 period to, you will find 4 period, and from 4 period you will find 8 periodic orbit. Now after some point of time, when a equal to 3.57, you will find infinite orbital point, and this infinite orbital point is called or infinitely periodic orbit point. This is corresponding to the chaos. Yeah. This is corresponding to the chaos. Now if I increase furthermore, after some point the 3 periodic orbit will come, and you will find in this range a greater than 3.82, a less than equal to 4. This regime is called chaotic regime. So here you will find all types of orbits, and in between you will find some chaotic regime. So in short, you will find these all things, because this equation is very famous equation, is mathematics. So by studying this equation, so many scientists have their very good means they they means they spend a lot of time lot of their time, lot there are many of the scientists, mathematicians who studied only this equation. This equation is very important for studying the chaos. And I have taken a course in the IEEE. This is known as chaos and fractals. I have studied this equation from the perspective of the chaos, so you can find there. Now uh,
So yeah, I have two new terms here. The
okay.
first one is orbit,
Hmm.
and the second term is chaos. So
Yeah.
I mean, what does it mean? The meaning
Okay.
of both the terms.
Yeah. This is for now means it is orbit means, let me tell you, orbit means nothing. So if there is a sequence of time, so suppose there is a t equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I write, suppose this xt, suppose xt is, suppose x0, x1, x2, x3, x4, x infinity, the set of the point is called orbit. Actually this is the set of the point is called orbit. So this is mathematical definition. So in physically it means, if you study the time series analysis of the population abundance, you will find the trajectory will be called the orbit. This is thing. And now the chaos.
So where is the orbitness into it? I mean, I view orbit as something which is circular,
Oh,
like we used to study in the physics in the 12th class. So what is the orbitness here?
that is called periodic orbit. Now whatever you are saying, suppose in 3, in place of 3, so it is x0, x1, x2, then x3 itself is x0, then x4 will become x1, x5 will become x2, and this is repeating itself. Now you will see this is called the periodic orbit, whatever you are saying. So this is our periodic orbit. After some period of time, the again the same state is coming, that is called the periodic orbit. Are you getting? Means
Okay. And what's the meaning of simple orbit then?
simple orbit means it could be anything. Simple orbit means this is the orbit of a, means the trajectory actually itself, you can call it orbit. But sometimes you are right, sometimes in physics and we call periodic orbit itself orbit. Orbit
Oh,
of
I
the,
see. Okay.
means in that case the earth orbit has to be, means in mathematics says earth orbit has to be periodic, means there is no way around it, means there is no other possibility. So that's why the orbit itself a periodic orbit. So that is the case. And then another thing is chaos. So chaos is basically very means it is a mathematical concept, very enriched mathematical concept. Means to explain chaos one need to at least 20 lectures. So if I, in brief, if I want to say what the chaos means, if you means the English term chaos means there will be uncertainty. So chaos means, actually here I am saying that x0, x1, xt, x3. So you will see that this point will be very erratic in nature. So it will, by seeing the population, you will see that there is some noise is going there. The population dynamics will look like, suppose if I draw, this is t, this is xt, you will found that some point is here, the other is the population dynamics never rest, and it will behave in chaotic, in it seems that in, if you will find that noise is there, uh, means here properties will be no stable fixed point will be there, the orbit will not settle anywhere, any point. Second property, no uh, periodic orbit there. And third property, it will be uh, it will be fill the whole space. uh, is it clear, means what chaos is? I think it is not.
So chaos is not clear to me actually.
Huh?
I
Yeah,
don't understand.
means if I say the mathematical definition, The mathematical definition is to mathematical definition is that one has to check that it's that if I okay, mathematical definition it, suppose there are two initial condition is there. Suppose we starting from two initial population size, one is x0, another is x0 prime. Now suppose these two initial condition is very close to each other. Suppose one is x0 is 1.0 and another x0 prime is 1 prime 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1. Now what the stability solution, what the in terms of Lyapunov stability, it says if two initial conditions are initially very close together, if I see, if I see this orbit, means if I see these initial conditions future at later time, suppose at t, suppose we are wanting to xt prime and xt, if these 2 points, if the trajectories are stable, is if it is not chaotic, then it will still remain close to itself. So if x0 minus x0 prime, it will be very close together, close each other, then at later time it will also remain close to each other. Now what chaos means, although these 2 points remain very close to each other, but after some point of time they will become far apart each other. So xt will become, so the distance between xt and xt prime will be larger, and as time increases these difference will be increased in exponential manner. So this is
So,
okay.
but this is sensitiveness to the initial conditions. So, how does it relate to the chaos?
Well, I don't understand.
So, but then this is, I mean, this phenomena which you described just now seems to be the sensitivity or the sensitiveness of the phenomena with the initial conditions.
Exactly.
So what? So what does it? I mean, what? How does it relate to the idea of chaos then?
Exactly. Exactly, you are saying that the sensitivity of the initial condition in some manner itself is called the chaos. If means you see, now you want to do a experiment and you want to measure something. Suppose you are measuring some initial fraction of the population, and you are measuring, suppose why it is chaotic, I am saying that. So suppose you are measuring initial fraction of sub initial fraction, suppose you measure some 0.002. Now it is your measurement, but actual population is very near about this, suppose 0.019999. So suppose actual, this is actual population and this is your whatever the measuring instrument you are there, you are measuring this. Now you see, since you cannot measure as accurately as actual population is, this means with your measurement you never be able to tell what will be the future state will be. So for you, the future, you cannot predict the future at all. Your future become undeterministic. So that means that is actually chaos. Is it clear?
Okay, but so then what could be the difference in between the unpredictability and the chaos? Because in the local language, whenever I mean, whenever we use the term chaos, we used to say that, okay, the chaos has happened. I mean, I do not know what to do next.
Yeah.
I mean, it is always so very chaotic. So
Exactly.
whenever we use the term chaotic or the chaos, actually we mean to say that now, I mean, the things have actually gone wrong from the scratch.
Exactly.
So, but then it has nothing to do with the sensitivity of the initial condition kind of a thing.
Exactly. Now when you say that from now point of time the system become chaotic, we cannot say anything about it. So that is basically chaos. So when you are saying that from now onward, means if you know, suppose I know what is happening in this moment, and if you cannot predict what will happen next, that is actually chaos. So we don't know what happened next, so that is chaos in local language also. Now the problem is here, when we are saying that we know exactly what is going on here, so that is a problematic. We never know exactly what is the present state is, and this is not our inability, because the number system is such a way. So give me an example. So if you go through the if you want to measure the present state for by this real number, you will find that, means if you want to represent the present situation by a real number, so you have to choose a number between 0 to suppose n. Now you see, there are, suppose not 0 to n, let me 0 to 1. Now in between 0 to 1 there are infinitely many irrational number, and suppose there are many irrational number than rational number. So the set of irrational number is larger than rational number. So if suppose that present state what you are measuring, you want to measure and you want to represent by a number, so if I randomly take a point from this 0 to 1, the probability is 1 that you will get a irrational number. And if you get a irrational number, you could not write the irrational number to the end, because irrational number is, you cannot truncate the irrational number anywhere, but after the truncation there will be some digits which will be different from where you have truncated. So you, the measurement itself contain some kind of problem. That's why the initial condition, you cannot put exact initial condition every time. And if the system were chaotic, if the system were not chaotic, it is fine, because the stability condition says that if my initial condition is very close to the if my initial means if the two initial condition remain very close, in future it is also will remain very close. But if the system was chaotic, then only this much error will generate a uh, uh, generate a different kinds of thing what you will not observe. So that much I can tell you.
Yes, yes, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
I couldn't understand, yeah.
Okay, good. So that is the thing. So now you see that this simple equation, this xt plus 1 a xt1 minus xt, this very simple equation can generate very complicated dynamics, that is chaotic dynamics, that chaos. So you see this equation, that is why you see this complexity and unpredictability of the biological time series data, and such as, means in principle, I am going ahead, but in principle there could be a deterministic equation which actually determining the price fluctuation of the stocks. That could be the number of the population size of birds in a populate, every kind of things in principle could be written in terms of a simple deterministic equation. And since the simple deterministic equation is chaotic, you could model the any kind of things. So that is the case. So this is the part of the reproduction. Yeah.
Yes, so can I write instead of xt plus 1, can I write it as a dxt by dt is equal to axt plus 1 minus xt? Will that also work?
No.
Because now this xt is in terms of the fraction. So it's a kind of the rate that how much, I mean, which portion of the species have been accommodated, kind of the thing. So can I write it like say dxt by dt in the left hand side of this equation?
No, no, you cannot write the dxt by dt. So if you write the differential equation, the the catch is here. If you write the differential equation, you will not get the chaos. For the differential equation to need chaos, mathematical says you need at least more than 3 dimensions, more than 2 dimension. At least if your system is more than 2 dimension, then at least you can, means in 3 dimension you will get chaos. In since if you write it, it will become one dimensional system, and in one dimensional system you will only find stable means only one point solutions.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Okay, that's it. Now this is the part of the reproduction. Now let's go towards the selection. This is selection. Now let's talk about what the selection is, means what the simple selection is. Suppose now instead of in that environment only, what example, that only one bacteria is there and it reproduces two at a rate, means in 20 minutes, on average 20 minutes it will reproduce a two. Now instead of one bacteria, suppose there are two types of bacteria. One is suppose red is reproducing at some rate a, and there is another type of bacteria, means, and not another type of bacteria, one's property is red, one property is suppose blue. The same bacteria we are putting in a medium, we giving enough resource reproduction, and suppose another is reproducing at a rate p. Now if I take these two together in a together in a container which give, means together in an environment which give enough food, so let me go back to this equation and try to write the equation again. So then suppose this is the number at time t, the number of bacteria at present which present in the environment whose behavior is red is denoted by nt, and another is t, and the number of individuals at which present at the time t is empty. Then we can write two differential equation. One is okay t and t, or nt dot equal to a nt, and mt dot will be b mt. Now this is a simple equation because there is no relation between these two terms, so you will found that the at the solution of these two equation will be nt will be n0 e to the power at, and mt will be m0 e to the power pt. These two will be there, these two equations will be there. Now you are saying what what selection is going on here. So it is increasing in its own space, and it is increasing in its own space. Now if I see in terms of frequency, so if I in terms of relative abundance, which is called, suppose if I want to see that what will be the, suppose the quantity rho dot is nt by mt. So how the relative frequency changing, relative abundance changing. So then you will find that this will be nt mt dot minus nt dot by mt square. So this is nt dot by mt minus nt dot by mt into mt dot by mt. So this will be nt dot will be n0 okay, it is, oh, sorry, this is actually nt dot will be ant. So this is a nt by mt minus this will be nt by mt means rho, this is mt by mt dot, so mt dot means a empty by empty. So this is row. So if I take common row, a minus, this is actually b, a minus b. So a minus b, you will find that row dot is actually row a minus b. So the relative frequency actually changing, and the row will be e to the power a minus b into t into row 0. Now if a is greater than b, then you will find that the relatively this row will go to infinity. That means relatively nt grows in the population. Nt grow, it means in the population relative to mt, you will find lots of more of nt's than mt if the reproduction rate of a is higher. Or if the, in other way, if b is greater than a, then you will found that rho tends to 0. So that means if you go to the population and you will see lot more of blue bacteria, lots more of, since blue bacteria, blue kinds of bacteria than red bacteria. So this is the case, this is a kind of selection, because at first, suppose in that population, you are in that population, suppose there are exactly same number of same number of red individuals and same number of blue individuals. Now after some point of time, you will found that if a greater than b, means the reproduction rate of this red individual is greater than blue, then you will found lots of more of red bacteria than blue, and if it is other way around, you will find the blue bacteria more. So this is the basic concept of the selection. So if some if some individuals has more, some individuals have some individuals reproduction rate is more than the others, they will reproduce more, and that's why the selection works. So this is the basic concept of selection. Is it clear?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So now this is a simple case. Now let's go to the case. Consider a situation where here we are saying that uh, here we are saying that there is a infinite carrying capacity. That means lot of individual can accommodate, but in place of that, let me we take an assumption that only we are not providing now infinite number of resource. So we are providing uh, a resource in such a way that this number nt plus mt is fixed. Suppose this at any point of time, this will be some constant, suppose n. Now what will be the case? If this is the case, then what will be the case? Then we want to talk about, in terms sense, this is the case, this is another case, and our equation is nt dot equal to a mt and mt dot is b mt. Now we have to give this constraint, because we are providing such kind of resource that at any point of time only fixed number of individuals can sustain. Then if we want to calculate the frequency, the frequency will be tt of, frequency means nt by n. Now I want to calculate this, that will be nt dot by n minus nt n dot by n square. Now nt dot by n will be a nt by n minus, this will be nt by n into n dot means nt dot plus mt dot. So this equation, this is again frequency xa minus this is x, this will be ant plus b mt by n. So this is ax minus x into ax plus b mt by n, again will be the frequency of this blue type, so this will be by. So that means my equation will be now become a minus ax plus by. Now similarly, so x dot will be this, so this is the fraction of this, fraction of red, and similar kind of equation you can write y dot equal to y, the equation will be p minus ax plus py. This is called the fraction of blue. Now you find that the reproduction rate decreases slightly. Why it decreases? Because of this constraint. Now they cannot reproduce infinitely, because I am producing a number of I am giving them a fixed number of fixed resource. That's why they cannot reproduce infinitely. So that has been checked by this negative numbers here, and x is the frequency means frequency. Now let me, since this is the thing, that means nt plus mt is always n, that means nt by n plus mt by n will be 1. So that means x plus y will be 1, and that means we need not to write two equation, only one equation will do our job. So x dot will become x into a minus ax minus b 1 minus x. Now if I simplify this equation more, then if I take a 1 minus x will be there, now minus b 1 minus x will be there. So if I take common 1 minus x, 1 minus x, a minus b. X dot is the frequency of red type. Now here you interesting phenomena, this is called the exact selection. You will find that here. Now that since here only n number of individuals are there, now if a greater than b, what means where this population will go? So if you analyze this equation, you will find that this equation can go only two direction. So suppose this is x equal to 0 all blue, set this is x equal to 1 all red. Okay, now this equation tells that the selection of a and b will happen, the selection dynamics can go in this direction. So all the individuals will become either red, or all the individuals will either become all blue. And if anything happens, we will say the selection happens, and the population means, and the system itself selected one individual than other. So if here suppose how it will happen, so this is called the now we will apply the tools of linear stability analysis. So let me linear stability analysis. So it basically says if I say this equation, this dx dt, where the rate of change of this fraction will stop. When dx dt becomes 0, then After that point, if I go towards these points, means suppose my trajectory or orbit means x, x is happens to such that the dx is 0. After that point there will be no further change, so these kinds of points is called the fixed points. So let me first calculate the fixed point here. The fixed point will be dx dt, that means x dot equal to 0 equal to x1 minus x a minus b. Suppose that a not equal to b, then only two solutions are possible, x equal to 0 and x equal to 1. So if my system reaches either all blue, since all blue individuals are physically, it means if all the blue individuals there, since there are no red individuals, so there will be no means all the population will always remain the blue because no one is there to reproduce red. And if x equal to 1, that means population becomes all red, no blue individuals are there who can reproduce blue individual. So that is basically the, this is called, technically called the fixed points. Why it is fixed? Because if the my dynamics go there, they will not change further. Now the question is these fixed points are stable or not? Stable means, if suppose if I start very near, means if I perturb the system, if suppose in all blue bacteria if I put one red bacteria, will it again came to the all blue state or it will go to the all red state? So this is the check we want to see. So whether the blue state is stable or not, if I destabilize it by putting only one red, will it remain all blue or it will go towards the all red? So that,
So I have a query here, that what could be the purpose of the this stability analysis? Like,
okay.
say, does this mean that whenever I perturb something by a small amount, whether it will return to the same value or not? This is the first question. And the second is that can we carry out this stability analysis for all phenomena, or is this a regular practice, or is this something which can only be done for certain phenomena and cannot be done for others?
Okay, for analyzing any nonlinear equation, the only tool you can use the linear stability analysis, because if I, so means if I give you this equation, now if I ask you what will be the fate of this equation, means if I go t tends to infinity, suppose if I wait enough, what kind of behavior I will observe? So one thing you could do, you put this equation in computer numerics, do some numerics, and you will observe something. That is the one way. And another way is, can we tell something about this equation, what will be the future of this equation, through any theoretical method? So the only theoretical method that is available is linear stability analysis. It actually tells you what kind of possible in what kind of fate you can observe in in long run. So I am saying that theoretically I can tell you, if you give me the parameters and the condition of the parameter, I can in principle tells you that where the population will go. So that is my goal. Is it clear?
But still, I mean, but I'm curious to know that if a non-linear differential equation is given to me, then can I always carry out such a linear stability analysis, or are there equations for which this cannot be done?
uh, yeah, you can, means you could do always, but there will be some example where, means this is the particularly linear, means I am seeing the stability up to linear term in near about the fixed point. Now there will be some
I
example
mean,
where
so what this fixed point here refers to? I mean,
okay, fixed point refers to, means where if I reach to that point my dynamics will stop. Suppose in this case, if I reach to a population state where my all bacteria are blue, suppose in my population all bacteria are blue, this is a fixed state, suppose all bacteria are blue. Now if I stay there, there will be no, means since there is no red individuals, then no more red individual will be reproduced in this population. So this is a fixed point. If my population go to this state, it will remain there infinitely.
Oh, I see.
uh,
I see. And then quite possible that there could be an oscillating kind of the situation as well,
yeah,
wherein.
yeah, this could be that could be also analyzed through these linear stability analysis. So linear stability analysis, that a tool that you can say there is oscillation or not, there is a stable fixed point or not, that system will go toward a stable, converge toward a, asymptotically go toward a stable fixed point or not. But as you are saying, there is again some catch here. So linear stability analysis always find the, it is called the um, it is not a global solution, it is a local solution. So I am saying that it is technical term, but yeah, i I am saying that locally what can happen, if I, if my initial population state is near about the fixed point, what could happen? If my population is near about this x equal to 1, what could happen, that I can tell from the linear stability analysis. But since there are, if you can see that there is no other fixed points are there, means if I start from anywhere here, suppose my population state is this is, since at this point the population, this the increase or decrease will happen depending upon this factor. So either it will go this way, either or that way. So this way I can tell a global picture. But linear stability is always about local, is local analysis. So these are the technical term, but for now we can assume that to analysis nonlinear dynamics, whether there will be a oscillation, whether there will be a chaos, whether there will be a stable fixed point convergence, whether there is a bistability, all we can tell by this linear stability analysis.
Oh, I see.
Hmm.
And can we know this thing in advance just by seeing the
Yeah,
equation that this will always converge and if fixed point definitely exists for this equation or not?
yeah, fixed point exist, yeah, that we can, fixed point existed or not, we can definitely show you by this, by solving this equation, x equal to 0, this equation. And the stability you always find, linear means locally you can always tell whether any fixed point is stable or not. Locally you can
Oh,
always
I
do the
see.
thing. And
Okay.
this is a technique you could learn from, that book is called Nonlinear Dynamics and Chaos by Stogart. And that is, I'm not going to details of this linear stability analysis, I only use that these tools here. So
Oh, I see. I
hmm,
see.
hmm, hmm.
So then, do we have such a fixed point for that equation only? That well-known equation xt plus one is equal to a xt plus one minus xt. The equation you mentioned is very important, and many people have spent their
Huh, huh.
lots of time on that
Huh.
equation
Yeah, you
in
see
this
here, here the fixed point will be if my xt plus 1 is equal to xt. So suppose this is my fixed point, the fixed point has to be satisfied this equation. You see, if I go to a state where my population state will not be changed further, so that means whatever state is at xt, it will be that at xt plus 1 also. So let's see is there is some equation or not. So suppose x star is equal to, here means here this to calculate the fixed point, you need not solve this equation a xt 1 minus x equal to 0, but you have to solve this equation, because a simple reason, here now my fixed point is not where my when my increment or decrement stop, but I have to find a state where my future state will remain as my present. So that means here the fixed point will be x star is a x star 1 minus x star. So here the fixed point is x star is 0, and the other fixed point will be x star equal to a minus 1 by a. These two are the fixed point here. And I have, means here maybe you missed, but here I told that these at some parameter range the dynamics will go towards one fixed point, and other way it go to that another fixed point, and after some point of time these two fixed point will become unstable, and you will find two periodic orbit, three periodic orbit, four periodic orbit, and you also get these things from the linear stability analysis.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, thanks.
So I have spent a whole course on this equation only, that xt plus 1 equal to axt 1 minus xt. So I think maybe 23 or 4 lectures of how this is important, how the chaos is there, why, how can you means how linear stability analysis will tell you in which parameter range what things will be happen. So those things are there. Now let's begin with this equation. So let's see the selection. Now came back to the selection. So this is the thing. Now if I again apply here the linear stability analysis, so linear stability analysis, I have to differentiate this equation with respect to x in near about x equal to 0. So this will give you, so this will give you x minus x a minus b plus 1 minus x a minus b at x equal to 0. So you will get a minus b. So it will say that at near about x equal to 0, the this means if this is the quantity, this is the quantity, the change of the velocity is in this way, in this manner. So that means if a greater than b, then you find that the population will always, from near about x equal to 0, it will always go in this direction. If here it physically means if the reproduction rate of the red type is greater than the blue type, the population will always go towards this type, this. So this is if dx means the first derivative with respect to x is greater than 0, since if a greater than b, then it will become a greater than 0, then linear stability analysis says that this fixed point x equal to 0 fixed point is unstable. Stable. So that means if I if there is all blue individuals, now I take one blue individuals and I, instead of that, I put one red individuals. Now you see that since the population is not stable, it says that the population will continuously go towards the state, means it will continuously going away from this all blue state. So that means the select cell will not favor the x equal to all blue state. Now see that whether or not in this, if a greater than b, then red individuals are favored by the selection or not. So we again have to analyze this equation through linear stability analysis. 1 minus x a minus b at x equal to 1, you will find that this is minus x equal to a minus b, and this is you same thing, you will find that a minus b. Now since it is less than 0 and when a greater than b, you will find that since less than 0, x equal to 1 is a stable fixed point. So since this is less than 0, this is a stable fixed point, this is a stable fixed point. It means, and when a greater than b, when the reproduction rate of the all red individuals is greater than the blue individuals, that x equal to 1 all red state is stable. That means if I put one blue individuals, if I replace one red individual by one blue individual, the population state always go towards all red state. So this is the, that means the select, that means the system always select the all red bacteria. So that's why if the reproduction rate is higher for the red individuals, the selection will always favor the red individual. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And if it is other way around, if it is a less than b, then you will found that this from the linear stability analysis, you will found that this will become less than 0, since a less than, then this state will become stable and this state will become unstable. That means if I start from any, since there are no another any other fixed point, then from that we can say that population will go either this state or either that state. Now if a less than, from that if I means conclude that I am saying also, then we can say for sure that from if if a greater than b, then wherever you start from, whatever your initial condition, whatever the initial composition of your population state, it will always go towards all red state, all red state. And
So how can we visualize this? I mean, this is stability analysis. I mean, so mathematically it's fine, but then if I visualize this fixed point through graph or something,
okay,
then how will it look like? Or yeah.
okay, let me then linear stability. Okay, so what does it mean? So x dot means suppose fx, one dimensional, right? So there is a fixed point here. Suppose velocity is equal to, means here velocity is 0, velocity is 0. Now here velocity is 0, so x dot is 0. Here x dot is 0, or maybe x derivative, let it, x derivative is 0, dx dt is 0. Now if I take this point, now if we ask that what is its velocity, is it velocity is in this direction or in this direction? If its velocity is in this direction, that means its velocity is increasing as we its velocity is increasing in this direction as we approaching x equal to 0. Is it true? Or as we approaching x equal to 0, its velocity is velocity is increasing in opposite direction. That means velocity is decreasing in this manner. So if the velocity is increasing, suppose velocity increasing means dx dfx at near about x equal to 0, velocity in this direction increasing means if it so okay, let me write in this way, then it will be much more clear in mathematical terms. So suppose, okay, now x dot, now if x is non-linear, now let's write it Taylor series expansion. Since here it is very less, suppose x equal to 0 is my fixed point and I want to see behavior at x equal to epsilon. Now what will be that? So this x will be my 0 plus epsilon, and f x will be x equal to 0 plus epsilon. So that means epsilon dot will be f of epsilon. Now since epsilon is very small, I can in principle expansion in Taylor series, x dot equal to is equal to f of epsilon equal to 0 plus epsilon into first derivative of f of x at x equal to 0, 1 by 2 epsilon square t2 dx2 fx x equal to 0, and so on so forth. Now since epsilon is very small, since we are very near about x equal to 0, we can approximate this by this equation. Epsilon dot is equal to f of, this is epsilon equal to 0, this is f0 plus epsilon, this is d dx of fx at x equal to 0. Is it clear up to now?
Yes.
Okay, let's then it is great. Since f0 x equal to 0 is my fixed point, and by definition if x equal to 0 is my fixed point, then f x equal to 0 should be 0. So that means this term will be 0. So that is proportional to epsilon t dx fx at x equal to 0. So this is the quantity that I suppose this is a constant factor. Suppose d dx of f of x equal to 0 is some constant lambda. Now that means it gives rise the equation x dot equal to epsilon and lambda. So this means epsilon, the equation will be epsilon 0 e to the power lambda t. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now
Standard result.
Standard result. Now if you remember, this is the thing that I am calculating by linear stability analysis. Now since here if lambda greater than 0, that means this initially, from initial how much distance we started, it will increase. So that means initially if we start epsilon 0, at after some time it will increase, so it will go to that. So that means it will not coming in this direction, but it is going away from this x equal to 0 point if lambda is greater than 0. Now if lambda is less than 0, that means what? That epsilon t is actually decreasing, minus lambda t. So that means whatever means if I started from this epsilon 0, the system will actually decreasing and it will came to this point. So that means when time increases, the means my state actually coming closer to x equal to 0. So that's why this is the standard result of linear stability analysis, that if lambda is greater than 0, then we will say that my system is that point x equal to 0 point is stable. That means if I initially if lambda greater than 0, then I will say my x equal to 0 fixed point is unstable, because if I start very nearer, it will go further away. And if lambda is less than 0, I will say my initial fixed point will be stable, because as time increases, this distance will decreases. It will asymptotically approaching to x equal to 0 fixed point. So that is the basically crux of the linear stability analysis. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then that is the thing. Then in the next, so one thing I want to add it here. So in the selection thing, so this is called this selection, whatever I am talking about. So see, if the reproduction rate of the red is greater than the blue, then the red will be selected by this equation, and if the reproduction rate is greater for the blue than red, then it is the red will be selected, red, and this will blue will be selected. So this is called the selection of the feeder. So whichever is reproducing at a higher rate, it will be selected. So this is called the selection of the feeder. In the next day we will see the survival of the fittest and other things also. So that's it. That's it. If you have any query, you can ask me, or we can simply end this meeting.
Which book would you recommend? I mean, for this course, which book or the lecture notes? If you can suggest some lecture notes which are thin and whose printout I can take, and for the remaining lectures, then.
So the book I am suggesting means basically the book I am following is Evolutionary Dynamics by Martin Enua.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
It is very simple.
Fine. All right.
Okay.
And there would be, I mean, in all the 10 days, in all the coming 10 days, the class would be held at the same time, and will be held regularly on Sunday, Saturday, Monday, every day.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then tomorrow the class will be held at 11:30.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Then I am leaving this class. Thanks,
okay.
Ethan.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye. So if nothing is there, then I can leave this meeting, I guess.